Working on PI for so long has taught me a couple of really valuable lessons. But the one that really stands out is whatever works. And there's a technique called camera projection that I keep coming back to because it's a bit dirty, but it gets the job done really fast. The way that camera projections work is that instead of doing a regular UV map, you take a snapshot of the UVs from your camera. And basically that just means that now the camera can project its 2D images back into our 3D world. A lot of people use this technique for matte painting and also image-based modeling, but there's a bunch of other things you can use it for. For instance, I use camera projections a lot to fix render problems. If you look at the end of this shot, you can see how the top of the building is flickering. Well, instead of re-rendering, which would take hours, we can just project one frame onto a card and freeze it. Then when you render it out with the same camera and drop it on top of the comp, the frame still has the artifact in it, but it's not flickering, so no one is ever going to notice. You can also do the same thing with animated objects, but it does get a bit more complicated. Here is a shot of Walter, and you can see that I've pushed the mouth into such an odd shape that it's created a bunch of these weird geometry problems. Now, you can't really paint each frame individually because then it would flicker. And you can't use a 2D trick because it's distorting and stretching in 3D space. But what we can do is open up just one frame in Photoshop and fix it with the clone tool. Then we go to that exact same frame in our 3D scene and we project that fixed frame back onto the geometry. I've also painted a quick matte that cuts out just the area we want to replace. And when you render this out, it gives you a nice little patch that is moving the exact same way as the original render, and it fits perfectly over the problem area. Another handy use for camera projections is in reflection. If you look close, you can see that the cars are reflecting their actual environment, especially down near the lines of the road as they're going past. Now that would kill my computer if I was trying to render those out with real reflection, so instead I just put in some basic geometry that approximates the buildings and the road and the sky, and then project the environment from the same camera back onto our simple geometry. Now as the camera moves, you can start to see that the seams are a little apparent, but it's so subtle that you're never going to notice that in the reflections on the car, and it really helps make them fit into the scene so much better. Well, that's it for this episode. If you have any questions, feel free to post a comment on the blog. I've also just made my travel arrangements for SIGGRAPH 2008, so if you're going to be in LA for that, hopefully we'll get a chance to get together and geek out in person.